Javier in Vacaville. Hey, with Willard and Dibs. Hey, Javier, how are you?
All right, how you doing, Mr. Dan Dibley and Mr. Willard? I tried to text you about 3 weeks ago, but I think blocked my number, didn't deliver, no longer delivers text messages. But that's, all relative.
It's awkward.
The contrary opinion of Mr. Holiday being on the Warriors is very simple. He's averaging 25 and 7 at 33 years old, and he's 6'5". And you telling me with him, you trade Paul and either or Kuminga or Moody with a pick, maybe two, to Portland? That just does so much for me because the Curry minutes when he needs a blow and or is, injured, needs a game, that's your starting point guard by default. And most importantly, he is a top 5 defender at the point guard position. If you go and get Jrue Holiday for 50 cents on the dollar right now, it is a win. You're shooting 47.9% from the field, 38% from three. Chris Paul is a shell of the production that Jrue Holiday would bring, and he's not bringing in the, I need to start. You're telling me Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney with Holiday, Payton, either Kuminga and or Moody, whichever one you don't get rid of, with Rudy Gay and Sarge, that's a championship-level team. My last point, the Kings didn't lose the game 7 against the Warriors because they were worse. Steph Curry went nuclear and went for 50 for the win. But hey, respect. But Jrue Holiday would be the piece to put you in the top 3 in the West. Go get him by any means. Chris Paul is not what you guys. I mean, the Warriors could do well with him, but if you can get Jrue Holiday with a Chris Paul and or Kuminga and or Moody swap with a pick or two, you do that 12 times out of 10 and 13 times on a Sunday.
Yeah, Javier, thanks, man. I don't think Moody would get it done. That would surprise me.
No.
But Javier brings up something that I think is important to discuss because we don't know Jrue Holiday. You don't know Jrue Holiday.
Are you talking about the Rudy Gay and Sarge part of it?
No, I'm talking about the part that Jrue Holiday, and wouldn't this be a freaking breath of fresh air? Listen to something that is tucked into this comment that Brian Windhorst of ESPN said about Jrue Holiday being available and how the league is salivating over this and how important it might be to the playoffs this year.
What happens with Jrue Holiday and where he ends up in the next couple of weeks could be a bigger outcome on the NBA title than this trade with Dame Lillard. And I say that because Jrue Holiday is now available on sale. 2 days ago, you couldn't get Jrue Holiday from the Bucks unless you were offering a superstar player and draft picks. Now Portland is going to be willing to sell him basically for draft compensation. You're not going to have to send him a great player. That means a bunch of teams that can compete for the title with the Bucks are now brought into it. I'm talking about Boston, New York, Miami, potentially the LA Clippers, and even more teams. Jrue Holiday is a plug-and-play, two-way, low-impact, low-ego player who has proven to have championship DNA. Teams are crawling all over themselves, contenders. And I would even argue that it's possible that a team that acquires Jrue Holiday, despite this star pairing in Milwaukee, could feel better about his championship chances than they did a couple of days ago.
3 words I really, really like. Low ego player.
Crawling over themselves.
Golden State Warriors are all set on ego. We're all filled up here. So to swap Jordan Poole for Chris Paul felt simply like going, okay.
The lateral move.
At least this ego isn't mad at us right now.
This ego didn't get punched in the face.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But when I hear this discussion, you coaching, should he start? Should he come in just because he's Chris and break up the most efficient lineup in the NBA just because he's Chris? I'm sorry if I get a little triggered because the whole season was ruined last year because of people's egos. It ruined the season.
Wow. That's one way to look at it.
No, it is. These two guys.
I don't think it was because of people's egos. It was because of people's fists.
Well, and what did the fists come from?
Don't know. It came from one person's hand.
Chirpity chirp at each other was based on egos.
In October.
Yeah, it was based on egos. Guys are chirping about contracts, who should be getting what. It's all based on egos.
Sure.
So forgive me if I'm not fully buying into the Warriors' connectivity line when they bring in Chris Paul and he immediately wants to start on a roster that's all set with its starting lineup? How about low ego player? I'm in.
Well,
I'm in on that.
Forgive me for just glomming on to what he also said, Brian Windhorst, in that soundbite, which is teams will be crawling over themselves or each other to get this player, which tells me it's going to take more than Kuminga in a pick and a broken down, egocentric, according to some, point guard who's 38 years old. So if you think that you're just going to get away with Kuminga in a future first or a pick swap, Portland's going to have options. And I don't imagine that Portland is going to settle for Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga, and a future 2030 first-round pick. There's going to be better offers out there.
I don't agree.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
agree. Again.
We can make a wager on it to see if they get.
I'm not. Listen,
if they get more compensation than that, I would bet that they do.
But that's going to be subjective. Who's the good young player that they admire in Portland? Who's the contract that these teams are giving up? Like the Warriors are in at minimum an advantageous position that they've got a $30 million expiring contract. That's
a player
good thing.
who's not, like, if you wanted to give up R.J. Barrett, if I'm Portland, I'd rather have R.J. Barrett at $26 million, team control for 2 more years after this year, a 23-year-old player who's actually, he's better than Chris Paul right now. He's better than Jonathan Kuminga for sure.
He's a guard, and they're drunk with guards
already. But he's a player that you could bring in, and absolutely he helps your team more than Chris Paul or Jonathan Kuminga.
Portland's not interested in being good this year. That's the whole point.
Well, they're interested in building something.
Right, and by the time they build it, R.J. Barrett will be 30.
Right, by the time they build it, Jonathan Kuminga is 6 years away from being great.
Chris Mannix, 7 hours ago, Golden State could quickly become a front runner for Jrue Holiday. The Warriors have the contract, the blue chip prospects, Kuminga and Moody, and the draft capital to get it done. These are the 3 things that you need. You need somebody making $30 million plus who you want to get rid of that's expiring. You have to have good young players that Portland will want. You have to have draft capital. Check, check, check. I'm not telling you they're going to get it done, but blowing off this as something Portland wouldn't want, I don't agree with that.
I didn't say that that's something that Portland wouldn't want. I said that Portland can do better. That's what I said.
And tell me who's got that. What's the other team that has those 3 check marks?
Well, I just gave you a team, and you poo-pooed it. Yeah,
that's not. So
R.J. Barrett's not better than Kuminga, and not better than Chris Paul.
He's not a prospect. He's already a player.
But he's got a fixed salary. He's a fixed asset with 2 more years to go.
They don't want the 2 more years. That's the point.
But they also want draft picks. And a Knicks draft pick is going to be better than a Warriors draft pick.
I mean, again, we're talking about draft picks that are years down the road.
Right.
And markedly, I mean, if you're looking at a Warrior pick and a Knick pick, you're gonna like, we got to go to the Knicks because they're going to be drafting like 17th and the Warriors will be 23rd.
I think there's a higher likelihood that the Knicks are in the lottery before the Warriors are in the lottery.
I don't know. The Knicks are not a lottery team right now. I mean, they got some good players there. That's a playoff team.
Right.
For sure.